Hello, my name is Macy Mooney, and for my Chapter 19 and 20 video project, I did my subject on whaling. People have been whaling for thousands of years. Norwegians were among the first to hunt whales as early as 4,000 years ago, and the Japanese may have been doing so even earlier. During the Middle Ages and Renaissance, whaling gained popularity throughout northern Europe. Whale oil and baleen, sometimes called whalebone, though it has no bone at all, were valuable commodities. Whale oil comes from the blubber of right and bowhead whales, and the cavity of sperm whales. It was used primarily for oil lamps, though corsets and hoop skirts were also constructed from whalebone. Nearly every part of the whale was used. Meat, skin, blubber, and organs were eaten as an important source of protein, fat, vitamins, and minerals. Baleen was woven into baskets and used as fishing line. In warmer climates, baleen was also used as a roofing material. Bones were used primarily for tool making and carving ceremonial items such as masks. The American whaling industry hit its peak in the mid-1800s. New technologies, including gun-loaded harpoons and steamships, made whalers around the world more efficient. The American whaling fleet, based on the East Coast, operated hundreds of ships in the South Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Whaling was a multi-million-dollar industry, and some scientists estimated that more whales were hunted in the early 1900s than in the previous 4 centuries combined. By the early 1970s, the United States had listed 8 whales as endangered species. In 1971, the U.S. had officially outlawed whaling. In 1946, several countries joined to form the International Whaling Commission, known as the IWC. The purpose of this was to prevent overhunting of whales. Its original regulations, however, were loose, and quotas were high. Whale stocks continued to decline. The IWC called for a moratorium on commercial whaling in 1982. Both Japan and Norway voted against this policy. Today, Norway supports hunting minke whales for meat, and Japan allows whaling for scientific purposes, although many experts question if more whales are taken than are necessary. The IWC eventually established whaling-free sanctuaries in the Indian Ocean in 1979 and the ocean surrounding Antarctica in 1994. In the 20th century, the concept of whale harvesting began to grow, as well as the introduction of factory ships, which could be used to hunt, capture, and transport whales much more effectively. As technology and the demand of whale goods increased, stocks of whales began to significantly decrease, causing many species to become endangered. By the late 1930s, 50,000 plus whales were being killed annually. Whaling even continues today in a more limited form after the outcry against it and the ban on most whaling activities in the later half of the 20th century. Whaling simply refers to the hunting of whales either for their meat or to produce whale oil and other substances for light, lubricants, or food. Generally speaking, a whaling ship is any ocean-going vessel used to hunt whales. Early human communities living in coastal regions hunted whales first by corralling them with a group of boats and then driving them ashore. Later, various groups began to hunt using spears or harpoons made of bone or metal. Whale hunters tied their weapons to some buoyant object or floater, which prevented the whale from diving to escape. The 17th century saw the onset of the industrial whaling in pursuit of the whale's oil, an important source of light in the era before electricity. Because of this and other uses of the whale, harvesting began on a massive scale. The whalers brought the captured whales to the ship and butchered and processed them into oil. By the late 19th century, fast, maneuverable steamships and cannon-fired harpoons had revolutionized whaling. No longer limited by the winds or the strength of the harpooner's arms, whaling ships were able to pursue even the largest whales non-stop and capture them in their thousands. By the 1940s, many of the commonly hunted whale species, such as blue whales and sperm whales, were near extinction. In 1946, agreements were made and signed by the ICRW in Washington, D.C. to provide better protection among certain whale populations and to monitor the behaviors of the whaling industry in an attempt to allow certain whale stocks time to recover from extensive whaling practices. And in 1986, the International Whaling Commission banned the practice of commercial whaling to provide better protection to all marine mammals and to give species affected by the whaling industry time to hopefully rebuild their population. Whaling is illegal in most countries. However, Iceland, Norway, and Japan still actively engage in whaling. Over 1,000 whales are killed each year for their meat and body parts to be sold for commercial gain. Their oil, blubber, and cartilage are used in pharmaceuticals and health supplements. Whale meat is even used in pet food or served to tourists as a traditional dish. Thank you so much for watching my video on whaling. Choose whale watching, not whale hunting.